When I make these titles for the individual shows, I'll typically put some type of a comment that refers to what we're discussing. And it's always a good one when I can just simply put Miami Hurricanes live / game week. Finally, football on the field. We're just days away. Alabama, Miami, and Atlanta. We've talked this one to death. We will continue to, but we are just days away from watching football on the field. And that's why we do this. This is why we talk and talk and talk and talk and have conversations and trash talk and debate and discussion and all this, is to finally watch some football, because that's what it's all about. And that's why we get the Wholesome One here every week, Tuesday at 1 o'clock Eastern time. We apologize for the delay. We're having issues getting the link to the Wholesome One, so I will have to do that in much sooner because for some reason there's an enormous delay. But I will send those out in an earlier time starting next week. Wholesome One, how you doing today?
Fired up, Mark. We fired up. It's game week. I was very disappointed in my internet last week. I wasn't able to give the quality content that I love to do. And I enjoy doing this show. And again, I do apologize to you all for not being able to do that. It was out of our hands. It was nothing me and Mark could do about it. But rewatching it, and the volume was low and the energy was low and it was in and out. So I have to make sure that you get what you deserve today, because it's game week. It's game week, and we're excited. Even all the way up here in ND where I live, there's a couple Miami Hurricanes guys, believe it or not, who are very excited about this game and just excited about the opportunity. And I know for a fact that everyone in South Florida, whether you're for the Canes or not, you want to see what's going to happen. At the end of the day, foot is going to meet ball, and we're going to see what happens. This game is scheduled. Okay, the teams have been vaccinated and ready to go. The crowd and tickets have been sold, and the light bill has been paid. There's nothing that we can do to stop this one from happening, Mark. It's about to go down. It's about to go down.
And sometimes you get those matchups and you can see the two teams after maybe 3 to 4 plays, maybe one series on each side of the football, and you know that it's headed in one direction. That's pretty rare, but it does happen. I remember the Clemson game last year against Miami. I pretty much thought I had a feel after about 2 to 3 series in which way that was going to go. So we know, because of the big underdog role that Miami plays in this game, that these first few series of the game are even more important for them than they are for Alabama.
I 100% agree. And this is on both sides of the ball. It doesn't matter where Miami would be on offense. It doesn't matter if Miami's going to be on defense. You have to prove that you belong. You have to go out there and have a true game plan and execute that at a high level. And we can't foresee that. Alabama has some things as far as what they're going to be doing offensively that Miami had to go watch some Texans film. They had to watch some Penn State film with a mixture of what they did last year, with a mixture of maybe Brian Daboll, because he was a little bit more of a power eye pro style approach to his view as an offensive coordinator. So Miami had to break that down. Okay, that's about 3 to 4 different styles of offense that Miami had to try to mix and create a game plan for. And Mark, I don't know, next time we speak this time next week, maybe I can say, hey, the Miami defense did the best that they could, and we're just not there yet. We just don't have the horses to go toe-to-toe with this program. Or I can say they came out and played their asses off, and Miami gave them a game, and Bama was just 10 to 14 points better than Miami right now. And that's what I'm hoping I'm able to bring to you next week. But at the end of the day, I think that's what Miami has to do offensively. Now let's flip it to Miami, or looking at Alabama offensively. Now what Miami can do, looking at Alabama defensively. They have a lot on film. This Alabama defense was very young last year, and you bring back a whole bunch of people to that defense this year, excluding one of the premier defensive tackles who went in the early second round, a middle linebacker, former 5-star recruit. And you replace him with the 5-star recruit from Tennessee, and Tua. And you also had the corner and Pat Surtain Jr. And you not necessarily replace, but you place in where he was Josh Jobe, former high 4-star, 5-star conversation player as your number one cornerback. So, and this is going to be a second and third year defense. This defense is not old either, but that doesn't mean that they are not experienced. A lot of these young men were on that football field last year. Like I said, they only lost 3 starters, so they returned 8 of them. Okay, and they're going to be very dynamic. They're going to be very explosive and physical at the point of attack. They have a very high turnover force ratio. And last year against the run, they weren't that good. Against the pass, they also weren't that good. This is a defense, and over the last couple of seasons, Alabama has had that issue to where in between the 20s, you're able to rack up yards and things of that nature, but they have a very high red zone defense. So Miami has to be able to turn red zone offense into 6 points and eventually 7, not 3. Now, number one, Mark, we got to get there. And it's not going to be easy, especially having to move this big defensive front, very athletic and nimble linebacking core who also brings size. I mean, both edge rushers are 6'5". The 2 inside linebackers are 6'3" plus. All 4 of them are 250 pounds plus. At the end of the day, we got to line up and move them.
Alabama, Miami talk here at the Voice of College Football, courtesy the Wholesome One. Please join him on his YouTube channel, Wholesome One Holloway. Wholesome One Holloway, right here on YouTube. Just search it right out in your search bar. Looking at also invite everybody, and we will get to the comments and questions here. You can contribute that way. You can also contribute with the super chat, and you can also go to Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App. The only thing I would ask is if you're contributing directly to this show that you put Wholesome One. All right. Here's what I've got for you. You talked about looking at the offensive and defensive coordinators at previous stops to get a feel for their schemes and what they like to do. The 2 teams that were the most successful moving the ball against Alabama by far last year, Ole Miss had them on the ropes. Correct. Tie game with about 5 or 6 minutes left, put up 49 points. Correct. Tremendous ball game. Alabama put it away in the last 5 minutes. Florida got behind, but then they were catching up and they were playing catch up the whole game, but putting up big points, big yardage, 46 points, a ton of yardage. In a different way, if you look at the Ohio State game, even though Bama blew them out in the second half, close game in the first half, Ohio State actually had the most successful rushing attack at like 5.1 yards per carry, and that was missing their best running back, Trey Sermon, who was knocked out in the first play of the game. So how much do you think the Miami coaching staff is leaning on those examples to see Ole Miss did this, Florida did this, Ohio State did this on the ground, and we're similar in certain ways that we think we can do the same thing or have personnel that could take advantage?
The funny part is, Mark, all 3 of those games are part of my film breakdown of what we can do as far as success against this Alabama defense that drops Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So great minds do think alike. And if you look at last year, they were some of the only teams. Now, a team that a lot of people weren't talking about that had a little bit more success was also Missouri. They kind of had a high obtained offense last year. And again, they have the history of a Big 12 approach to offense, which is why they were somewhat successful in the SEC when they first hopped in.
Not to interrupt, scores late in the game in that one. Like Bama had that one salted away. I think Missouri scored a lot late.
Right. I think they put like 21 in the fourth or something like that. But still, like I said, it's not in the 3 games that we discussed. But at the end of the day, they did show some things. And that's the biggest thing with quote unquote inexperience. I talk about this a lot, Mark. There's a difference between being young, being inexperienced, and being young and inexperienced. Those are 2 separate things. Okay, yes, Miami has an older team. Yes, Miami has experience at a lot of these positions in returning starters. But Bama, on the opposite side, is an younger squad, but they're an experienced younger squad due to a lot of their players starting last year. I think one of the biggest things was the communication in the secondary last year. Now, a lot of those guys are coming back, so that's going to be one of the things that Miami has to test. Okay, or have you gotten that much better at it? Because I've seen a lot of people get behind you. I've seen a lot of people do rub routes and drags and slants and have a a post corner combination on that side, and to the point where a lot of those Bama secondary guys had people pop wide open. And then also, again, the run game. If you're able to win that LOS, and I don't know if Miami is willing to do that, I don't. Again, we're discussing what we could do in order to win this game. I'm not saying that Miami will, and I'm also not saying Miami can't either. Okay, there's no reason to say those things because we don't know. All right. At Miami, we've done a lot better with building our fronts. We've done better with building a better offensive and defensive line and building a better strength and conditioning and nutrition program. Now, are we years behind Bama? Hell yeah. But still, we got to line up and get her done. You got a guy like Navon Donaldson, who's 6'6", 348 some odd pounds, ready to show what he can do. I've come on here and spoken about this young man for years. We know what he did as a freshman. All we ask is that that same player, if not a better version of that player, come to show up. Now, I've spoken about last year's offensive line. Again, at center, 298 pounds, right guard, 302 pounds, and at left guard, 304 pounds. That's not enough to move people, even in the ACC Coastal, which is why you saw Miami have a very lackluster run game approach last season. This year, you talk about at left guard, 335 pounds, at center, 308 pounds, and at right guard, 348 pounds. That's a way better offensive line with an aggressive and size. At left guard, 6'5", former left tackle prospect, and Jalen Rivers, okay, top 10 at his position coming out of his recruiting class, and also former top 10 offensive tackle, right tackle, and Donaldson coming out of high school, 5-star right guard. They both moved onto the inside of this offensive line. So just based on that, we're going to be moving folks. And we're going to be moving people, man. And you look at those games, you look at Ohio State, and you also look at Ole Miss. They had very good success running the ball. Florida just leaned on, that air raid kind of approach to it and having one of the best. And again, you see the hat, you see the logo, having one of the best wide receiver, tight end, regardless of what you want to call him. Kyle Pitts was a big-time playmaker in college football last year and had one of the best seasons, in my opinion, in college football history. Whether you want to call him wide receiver, tight end, whatever, he was a playmaker and a touchdown machine. And he did that even in this game. Now, the person that we could have similar to that size and game-breaking ability, for me, Mark, is Will Mallory. I think Will Mallory could show up in this game at a high level. We got to see it, though.
You get my picks and 20 media members at Patreon. It's only 17 cents per day. Predictions there on Patreon, courtesy myself, the voice of college football, and some media members as well. Also, Steve Merrill with Wager Talk and his lock of the week. Also, we got a 24-hour live stream coming up, of course, starting at 2 a.m. Eastern time, Wednesday going into Thursday. We'll be live for 24 consecutive hours. All right, let's tee up some questions for the Wholesome One right out of the gate. We got Mr. HD, who wants to know if you could take two players on both sides of the football that are key. Who are they?
I'm not going to go with the simple quarterback and tight end, which was my original answer. I do believe that those two are very key players. I'll give you two offense and two defense. Then I think offense, now my main answer is going to be exactly King and Will Mallory. Those would be the two people I believe could push us over the hump on a high level. But I'm going to go in a different direction. And I'm going to say Cameron Harris, Navon Donaldson. So if I were to give you four, meaning De'Aaron King for me is number one on that list. Now, behind De'Aaron King, I would say is Will Mallory. Third on that list is Cameron Harris. And fourth on that list is Navon Donaldson. Now, if you have an importance on offensive line, like a big guy like me, I probably would put Donaldson up to number two, in my opinion, because if he has a dominant performance in this game, I think that's going to do dividends, especially for him moving forward and wanting to play in the NFL. But those other offensive linemen, seeing him come out and do that fiery, intense, moving, because he's a talker. He's not just a guy that just like, oh, okay, I made the tag, I made the block, and jog back to the huddle. No, he gonna let them know I just put him on his behind, and you next if you come over here. And that kind of energy, that kind of in your face and fight back is something I think this offensive line needs to see, because they need to see that they can do it, Mark. They need to see that, we're not just pick squeak you. We're not just guys who can't beat Duke and North Carolina on a consistent basis and barely beating Virginia. Okay, we've been that in the past. Now we're out here fighting against the best team in the country and the best program in college football history. All right, and again, all of this sounds like hype. All right, all of this sounds like what if, because that's what we're discussing, the what if. I'll continue. On a defensive side of the ball, my original answer was our edge rush presence. And Jafari Harvey, again, Mark, it is Jafari. So they came out with the official depth chart, and in the bottom right, they have the pronunciation of the names. It is Jafari Harvey. And it's not Chiantra Smith, it's Chiantra Smith. All right, I know that was a issue with a lot of us, and helping media to media, Jafari Harvey and Chiantra Smith. See, I'll say it, Chiantra. It's hard. It's hard.
It is when you're used to seeing a certain name pronounced a certain way, the way it's spelled, and then you get used to that. It is difficult, but we owe it as respect to the young men to pronounce their names correctly. So I will do my very best to keep that in mind and do that going forward. I would not want anyone calling me Mark Rogers,
Right. Oh man, and I get it all the time. Wholesome Holiday or Halloway with 2 A's, all kind of weird stuff. But anyway, back to what's going on the defensive side of the ball. I would say our edge presence, because having one thing about the Coach Manny Diaz's defense is they usually are very, very, very aggressive off the edge. Again, with guys like Trent Harris and Chad Thomas and Joe Jackson and John Carvin and Gregory Rousseau and Jalen Phillips. Okay, but we're going out there with Jafari Harvey and Zach Mccloud. Big question mark when it comes to 53 Zach Mccloud. And also, you can say the same thing for Jafari Harvey. Yes, he's shown in a spurt, but as far as going out there against top 10 pick Evan Neal at left tackle, we're going to have to see it. All right, those were my original 2 answers as far as the edge presence. I'm going to take it to a different level secondary. Tyrique Stevenson at corner, because they're going to try him. They're going to try him. Tyrique Stevenson and Chiantra Smith. Those are going to be my 4 players on the defensive side of the ball. And I'll give you my order. Because of how close he is to the LOS, I think Jafari Harvey is up there at number 1. And him being able to stack up against the run and him being able to show a sense of pass rush against a guy like Evan Neal, even if he gets back there and just forces a quick pass faster than they wanted to, if he's able to get back there and put a hand up and swat a pass and basically steal it down and make 2nd and 2 turn into 3rd and 2 when they just wanted to throw a quick slant and Evan Neal tried to cut him and he got up and got a hand on the ball. Just being able to do those little things. I have him as my number 1. My number 2 is Tyrique Stevenson. They're going to try him. They tried him at Georgia. They picked on him when he was in the slot at Georgia because they don't think he has the hips to run with their wide receivers. What do you think they're going to do when he's outside at corner? Same thing. Okay, 3rd, I'm going to say Chiantra Smith, because our linebackers have been some of the worst linebackers in college football. Okay, one of the lowest graded linebackers in college football last year was B.J. Jenkins. And he started for who? The Miami Hurricanes. Okay, you could take that however you want. It's just true. I think he finished out the season with a Pro Football Focus grade of 31.3 out of 100. Mark, anyway, this is not a bashing session. We're going back to what we're talking about. And then 4th on that list has to be Zach Mccloud, number 53 for Miami, because he's going up against the right tackle. All right, most teams like to run. Bama can run either way. It ain't about power and pass protecting tackle. They can run either way they want to. It's Alabama. And college football has kind of grown out of that for the most part. If we need to run left, we run left. If we run right, we run right. It's not like the best run blockers are on this side and the best pass blockers are on that side. Some coaches still have that moniker, but a lot of them really don't. It's just, line up and play football. And Zach Mccloud, one thing about Zach Mccloud is he's going to do his job. He's going to do it at a high level as far as effort-wise. He may not be the best athlete. He may not have the best stats. And he's not going to just be moved off the football. Okay? He's put on over 27 pounds of weight, Mark. He's 253 pounds now. And I think he's ready to get it done on that side of the ball. Again, we'll see. I know a lot of people are just saying, hey, just keep it close. Just keep it close. Just keep it within the spread. Let's fight. Let's give it the best that we can. And I agree with them. But at the end of the day, it's not just about that. Go out there and take your history and take your moment.
Aside from what's shown on the scoreboard, I would think that as a competitive athlete, one of the things that you want to take away from any particular game is that you laid it all on the line, you have no regrets, and then you're walking off the field and you know that that other player on the other side that you lined up against play after play after play after play, that he and the rest of that team respects you and your team, regardless of what the score was, that they come away not thinking, we blew them off the field, or they're really not that good, or those guys are chumps, or, you know, they backed down, or any thought like that. But that, hey, regardless of what the score was, that you gained their respect because you hit them in the mouth, they hit you back, and you hit them in the mouth again because you didn't back down and you gave it all you had.
Yeah, and that's what you can ask for. Again, I'm not sitting here coming to tell you Miami's going to win. I'm not coming here to tell you Miami's going to shock the world. Miami's going to beat them behind. That's none of what I'm saying. What I'm saying and what we're hoping for as Miami Hurricanes fans is that this team comes out prepared, and they come out showing that intensity and playing with respect and playing like they have a good game plan. They trust that game plan. The players on the field trust the grown men on the sideline. The grown men on the sideline trust the players on the field to execute. We're willing to make adjustments. We have leadership. We're playing a whole 60 minutes. And again, if they just end up being better than you, that's perfectly fine. But make sure you're able to jog to the 50-yard line at the end of the game and shake hands against that man you win against, the young man you win against for 60 minutes, and they go, hey, man, you did that. Good job. Y'all are not as bad as you think, man. Hey, hopefully see you in the playoff one day, and jog off. And you're not on the sideline like, oh, shit, I had a good game. You know, I had 2 sacks. I scored a touchdown. I don't know why everybody else mad. I did my thing. No, it's not about that. It's about their team. They're playing as a unit.
I will make it known right here. I've not given this game any thought from the standpoint of who I'm going to pick, the winner or loser. It's just a foregone conclusion. So I'm going to pick Alabama to win the game. Now, what am I going to pick against the spread? That is going to take some thought a little bit. I'm on the borderline when it comes to that. I only say that because I have a number of Miami fans who've already approached me to say, because they took some exception to something I've said at some point, to say, well, let's put some money on the game. Put your money where your mouth is. So I am here and available to, if anybody wants to bet this game straight up, I will take that wager. So I'm at Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App. And we can certainly have that exchange. It would just be foolish for me not to take that wager straight up when the point spread's 19 points. That would just be foolish. So anyway, and when you bring up the pass rush is always, I would say, after turnovers, that if anybody can ask me in any particular game, what's the most important factor in this game, I'm going to say the pass rush, because the passing game provides the explosive plays in college football. The passing game is what's run like 60% of the time now. The passing game has just become more and more important. Well, what's your best friend of a secondary? It's a pass rush. You can make a bad secondary look decent in particular games if your pass rush is getting home. Shoot, I could be back there, and the quarterback's got to throw the ball out of bounds because the pass rush just was there like that, and he didn't get his 2 beats to look and then throw. I watched Hawaii and UCLA on Saturday, and at halftime, the sideline reporter had made a comment that she heard Todd Graham, the Hawaii head coach, approach his quarterback because his quarterback was so frustrated. And this was not a first-time starting quarterback. He's been the quarterback for a couple of years. But I'm watching this game, and UCLA just, if you look at the stats, it didn't look devastating. They only had 2 sacks. But basically, they couldn't run their offense because the defensive line so overwhelmed the Hawaii offensive line. He's basically throwing the ball out of bounds or just getting rid of the ball almost every time they had a drop back. They just couldn't run their offense. And the head coach at halftime just had to say, basically, you can't do anything about everyone else. Just run the plays. Just run the plays. Keep your composure. Just run the plays and do your job. And that's going to be key against Bryce Young, obviously. Yes. Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, if they're on their back, they're not Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady anymore. They're not the greatest quarterbacks of all time if your pass rush is that good. But obviously, they're so good that they can do things to mitigate a pass rush, especially Aaron Rodgers because of his mobility. But if Bryce Young is not running for his life, if he's able to stand back there, then basically he might as well just be in practice in Tuscaloosa, because it's going to feel like he's just going through his progressions, boom, boom, boom. And regardless of how much little experience he has, he's going to feel pretty comfortable doing that.
Mark, that cannot happen. Cannot happen. I mean, a lot of people want to point to, I talk about 2017. That secondary was pretty good, but we had 3 first-time starters in that secondary. Okay, Malik Young was a starter the year before, but Mike Jackson, Jaquan Johnson, and Sheldrick Redwine, all 3 of them were all, that's not true, Liberty City boy. You know what? I will say, what you're saying right there, I have no knowledge of at this point in time right now, because Rewatch Squad get on me about not knowing everything about the Canes and things of that nature. So I do not know anything about Mark Pope not traveling with the team as of right now. I know he's been at practice and that he'll be at the game on Saturday. If I'm proven wrong at some other point, new evidence creates new opinions, in my opinion. As of right now, I don't know anything about that, family, but thank you. Anyhow, pass rush. That having Jalen Knight, having Joe Jackson, and having John Garvin, and the pass rush up the gut is what was getting him. RJ McIntosh, to me, was arguably the best player and the most important player on that defense, because he was able to affect the passer from the interior. All right. And being able to get that rush in a QB's face. And again, like I say, stealing a down or 2. I mean, Mark, could you imagine this 3rd and 10 or 3rd and 4? Say, for example, quick 3rd and 4, which is manageable. You know, you get the 3rd and manageable. This guy who's been destroying the game beats your guard, and he wasn't able to get to the QB. You try to throw a slant, he just swats the ball down. 4th down, chalk to the sideline. That's a part of the game when you have those long arms and limbs, and you're pressing that pocket backwards. And even if you're able to get, let's say, for example, you're driving a guard back, and he's leaning like this here trying to block you, and all you're able to do is get a hand up to affect the passer. It's just being able to affect the throw, affect the passer. Sacking the quarterback is such a great luxury. But it's not just about that. It's about having him step off of his base or come a little bit to the left, so now that ball drifts out of bounds as opposed to hitting you right on the slide line, or being able to have a hand up in his viewpoint. So now instead of him being able to throw it with a little higher accuracy, it comes down because he has to kind of get the ball around your arms. You know, just those little things. And people don't think about it to that extent, but it's just that simple. It can be that. It can be that.
Some of my favorite plays in football are not the conventional plays. So I loved batted passes at the line. Like if I'm watching a game and I don't care who wins, I'm just watching the game for entertainment purposes, which is most of them. On Saturday, I'm watching games all day. I love seeing balls batted. I love seeing defensive linemen bat passes at the line. I don't know why I love watching that. I love seeing a D end with a speed rush come around the end and strip sack the quarterback. I love to see blocked punts and field goals. Those are fun to watch. Pick sixes are fun to watch.
I'm with you. I'm with you. And man, I tell you, when you bring in guys with that length and that size, everyone always brings up the Giants defensive line against the best team, the best record of all time between that long defensive line, because they weren't like big, like fat dudes. And the Miami Hurricane was on that defensive line, William Joseph, just to let you know. But they were huge, 6'5", 6'6". Long wingspans, pass rush defensive line. And what they did was get back there and get their hands up. And then the other thing about swatted passes is when you swat it, it could swat in the air. Defensive end could jump and catch it. Heck, look at Darius Payne against Clemson years ago, where it hit the helmet and he caught it in stride and ran, or linebacker could slide and catch it before it hits the ground. All those kind of things. You just being able to not necessarily cheat. It's just a part of the game that you are adding, especially when you know for a fact that we're probably going to be outmanned. We got to take those little things.
Wholesome one, you just brought back to me one of my favorite memories in the NFL. So I'm going to take everybody back, way back before you were watching anything. 1985, Giants Cowboys had the same record. They were playing for the division championship in the NFC East. Giants were in the red zone. Phil Simms gets a ball batted by Too Tall Jones, who was notorious for batting passes. It was recorded. That's why they called him Too Tall Jones. He was 6'9". He batted more passes by far than anybody in the league. Had a 15-year NFL career. Anyway,
doesn't he have the most career PBUs? I think somebody has that stat. Yeah.
Yeah, Too Tall Jones. He bats a pass in the air with the Giants in their red zone, up ready to go up 2 touchdowns. And he bats a ball up in the air, gets picked off by the other defensive end, Jim Jeffcoat, who runs it like 80-some yards for a touchdown, and they win the division by a touchdown. And that was the difference in the whole division race. Batted pass. All right.
So before, I don't know if you have something else you want to get into, but I want to do a depth chart breakdown, if that's cool with you.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, so we had our official depth chart come out. And I'll talk about some battles for depth chart of Miami and depth chart of Bama, some things that we got to keep an eye out on because we got to get out of here pretty soon, guys. All right, so of course, at quarterback, Tyrique King. It's just that simple. One of the best top 5 QBs in college football right now. And we're happy that we have that position finalized. Mark, I don't know the last. Brad Kaya, 2016. Probably the last time that the QB was the one that the players and the staff wanted, okay? And that's huge, Mark, because when you're playing this game, you got to be able to trust your signal calling. And when we were going back and forth between Malik Rozier and N'Kosi Perry, back and forth between Jaron and N'Kosi Perry. Shout out to N'Kosi Perry, won the battle at FAU, and Jaron Williams, who we chose over him, lost the battle at USF. So just saying. Anyhow, let's go to running back. Cam Harris starting at running back. Again, I'm going to preface all my statements by saying this. Besides quarterback, it's about snap count. It's not about who's starting. It's about snap count. All right. It's just that simple. So we got Cam Harris, Donald Chaney, and Jalen Knighton. Also, I stand to be corrected. There was a conversation I did say on here that supposedly there was going to be Jalen Knighton and BJ Jennings were going to be suspended for this Alabama game. And again, I spoke on my channel, a lot of things are subject to change because we do have a leadership council at Miami, the older of the players, like the leaders, 4 or 5 leaders, captains, also their staff, and Coach Diaz has final say. They met on a couple of these suspensions, and there's conversation of these suspensions being pushed to App State or CCSU or Michigan State or being lifted completely. Also, Avante Williams was officially reinstated yesterday, but also was given a 6-game suspension from this panel of leaders and things of that nature. But he was on the football field today working out with Coach Dave Feely in his jersey and shorts. So just so you all know that. I will continue. At X, the premier wide receiver to the far left, we have Keyshawn Smith. Shout out to Cam Underwood. Talking about Keyshawn Smith, that was his guy for a long time, and now he's out here starting for Miami. He's being backed up by Michael Redding III. Y, which is the opposite, far right wide receiver, is going to be Charleston Rambo, Oklahoma transfer. He's backed up by the Tallahassee killer on the post route, D. Wiggins. Now at the slot, we're going to have Mike Harley, our top 3 best player on the team, something like that. I think he might be a All-American kind of guy. No, he's going to be All-Conference, no conversation. And he's backed up by Xavier Restrepo. There's a couple names you didn't hear me say. Mark Pope. You didn't hear me say Jeremiah Payton. You didn't hear me say Dazin Washington. You didn't hear me say any other freshmen. Okay. Again, this is a depth chart for the first game of this season. All right, guys. So therefore, they're going to keep competing. They're going to keep going and battling back and forth. Mark Pope lost the backup battle to Xavier Restrepo. That doesn't mean he sucks. That doesn't mean he's transferring. That don't mean he's suspended. He just lost a backup slot position to Restrepo, who arguably is the best slot on the team. Now, like you say, Harley is a better player, but as far as just knowing that position and being able to hone the craft at slot, I would say Xavier Restrepo is the best slot on the team. All right, but just because he didn't make the depth chart or didn't make the 2 deep doesn't mean that Mark Pope's career is over. He needs to hit the portal. That guy sucks. We got to stop doing that time, please. Okay, that's off-season talk. We in season now. We need to level up on our young men, guys. Tight end, Will Mallory backed up by freshman Elijah Arroyo. Mark, I was proven wrong. I was a Larry Hodges guy. I talked about Dominique Mamarelli, these 2 guys that I was like, you know what, they might be able to kind of hold off Elijah Arroyo for maybe a mango season or half a season. Nah. Mark, he came in and he's put on 20-plus pounds. Right now, he's 6'5", 253 pounds. And in like 6 months, and that just shows his ability, his want to. He wants it. And he went out there and got it. And now he's on the 2 deep backing up Will Mallory. Left tackle, Zion Nelson. I remember being on here maybe 2 weeks ago, and it was a big question mark about Zion Nelson and his health. They were holding him out because they wanted him to be completely healthy for this game. So due to the information we have right now, Zion Nelson is healthy enough to be out there and will start for this game. He's backed up by Jared Williams. Left guard, you have Jalen Rivers, who's backed up by Usman Traore and Cleveland Reed. At center, Corey Gaynor, who's backed up by Ja'Kai Clark. Now, Ja'Kai Clark is that left guard I was talking about last year, who I spoke on. That was 305 pounds starting at left guard at 19 years old. Can't have that, man. He's not ready. He needed a couple more mango seasons, and now he's at his premier position. Center, right guard, you have Navon Donaldson. At right tackle, you have DJ Scaife, going back to his original position where he started here in 2018 and had to move on the inside in 19 and 20 because we didn't have anybody else. Defensive side of the ball, strong side defensive end. You have Zach Mccloud, backed up by Chance Williams. One technique, you have John Ford or Nesta Silvera. For some weird reason, Miami likes to do this and play mental games with our players. Who's the starter? Okay, we don't need this. You got John Ford as the starter at 1 technique or Nesta Silvera. At 3 technique, you have Harrison Hunt or Nesta. Pick one, and let's just get it over with. Weak side defensive end, Jafari Harvey doing his thing. He's backed up by DeAndre Johnson, that transferred from Tennessee. At striker, here's a big surprise. Now, mind you, Mark, the person who had the highest grade for me last year was Gilbert Frierson. I even gave him my team MVP because of how he played and he showed up in big games. Well, he's a backup now to Amari Carter. Moved down from safety. He earned the striker position, which is basically linebacker. He earned the striker position. So I guess it's a good 2 deep in my opinion. I still think Gilbert's the better guy, but obviously they went out there and battled, and he lost the position. At middle linebacker, Corey Flagg Jr. is going to be a starter. He's backed up by B.J. Jennings. At will linebacker, you have Chiantra Smith, who's backed up by Wayman Steve. At corner, again, Mark, this or crap. DJ Ivy or Tyrique Stevenson, and then Corey Couch or Tyrique Stevenson. Some combination of those three will be on the field for Miami at that position. And at free safety, you got light-skinned warrior Bubba Bolden, backed up by 5-star, 6'5", 234-pound James Williams at free safety. At strong safety, you have Gervin Hall, backed up by Cam Kinchins. So that's what we're rolling into with Miami versus Bama as far as the depth chart. So since we gotta get out of here, and I wasn't able to go down to Alabama lineup, which is cool. Worried about the Canes. That's what we're talking about today. And I will give you my score prediction for this game. After all of what I said today, even excited about the Miami Hurricanes, I still think we're not there yet as a program. This is a game that's a little closer than some other people, but I have the Miami Hurricanes losing. So Bama winning by 34-21. I think there could be 13 to 18 points better than us right now. My official score, 34-21, Alabama. Mark, you're muted. You're muted.
Sorry about that. 34-21 Bama, according to the Wholesome One. My picks and other media members on Patreon. For those of you that were here at the top of the show, know that I made the comment that I send the link to the guests. That's the way it works. Usually send it in plenty of time. I send it in plenty of time to the Wholesome One as well. For some reason, we've got some kind of connection issue. So anyway, my apologies. We started about 15, 16 minutes late this week. I will make a note of it to get the link to the Wholesome One sooner so we can start on time at 1 o'clock Eastern. Everybody, we've got a post-game show right here at the Voice of College Football Miami right after the Alabama game, so please join us for that. And help me keep me awake on my 24-hour live stream, which starts at 2 a.m. Wednesday night, Thursday morning. All right, Wholesome One. We appreciate it.
Again, man, I appreciate each and every one of you all for being here. Hopefully you subscribe, hit that like button, hit that notification bell. Don't leave it at personal. Go up and hit all. And if you haven't swung on over there to my channel, go ahead and do so. Again, I do apologize about the content I gave last week. We apologize for being tardy, but I made sure to bring the energy and I made sure to bring the great quality content that I love here. And thank you, Mark, again, for allowing me to use this platform to represent you and to represent my family. Thank you so much, Mark. Y'all have a great rest of your day. Go Canes.
And again, if you appreciate what we do, Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App. Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App. And if you want to contribute specifically to this show, just put Wholesome One right there. I am off to it. I have my schedule booked from 10 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. So we are working hard to get college football content produced for you here at the Voice of College Football. Next live stream, 8 p.m. Eastern, Nebraska Live. See you then.